You're listening to I Have Some Notes, a podcast supported by listeners like you. To contribute, visit patreon.com/I Have Some Notes. Greg, I have a pitch for a sci-fi action movie with an awesome premise and popular names attached.
Well, this is Netflix. Can you make sure that it's half-baked nonsense and meant to appeal to the widest possible audience?
You know it.
Great. What kind of budget do you need?
$320 million?
I have some notes.
Welcome, everyone, to I Have Some Notes, the movie podcast with cuts, keeps, punch-ups, and tweaks on mediocre movies. I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver.
And today we are discussing The Electric State.
Yeah, this one kind of landed on Netflix, as most Netflix movies do, with very little fanfare. But it was based on a very popular graphic novel. I'm not certain exactly what you would call it. So it got a lot of buzz when it landed, and of course, then nobody liked it. It was getting very mediocre reviews.
Now it has a no buzz.
Yeah, it got some mediocre reviews, and it kind of piqued our interest. So we were like, oh, we haven't done like a brand new movie in a little bit. Not since that Captain America thing.
Yeah, the whole 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was amused by the fact that we had talked about in chat about picking movies that were going to appeal to our audience the most.
Things people wanted to watch and talk about.
Exactly.
And had seen and were interested in. And yes, I'm glad
you
pointed that out.
And then we pitched The Electric State, and everyone in our Discord was like, no, I'm not going to watch that.
You're on your own, boys.
Well, sometimes it's fun as well to look at a movie that not a lot of people have watched because it kind of draws attention to it, right?
Well, we're certainly going to try because we don't have a choice at this point.
It's true.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I'll just come right out and say, if you've heard terrible things about this movie, it's not unwatchable. It's not that bad. And maybe it's because I went in with the bar set very low, but
sure.
Nita and I kind of enjoyed it. Like it's definitely junk food style movie. Like it's not anything super cerebral. It'll slide into your eyes and over your brain. It's no calories. But it's very watchable. It was a relatively enjoyable 2 hours.
Yeah, Liam, you had posted a review that had compared it to Moonfall, and I think that is actually quite accurate. It's got about the same level of quality and the same sort of sporadic moments of entertainment and enjoyment strewn throughout.
Yeah, it's just enjoyable enough that it strings you along through the whole runtime without like being a slog or odious. It did start to feel a little long at the end, but it was fine. It was a fine movie.
It also, like Moonfall, traffics in some pretty interesting ideas that it doesn't explore in any particularly meaningful way.
Nope. Doesn't have time for it.
This is one, though, where I'm kind of okay that they didn't try. Like, sometimes I want to hold these movies' feet to the fire. Like, come on, say something. You're gonna evoke this sort of grim reality of the human experience. If you're gonna evoke these sort of this imagery of these ideas, say something. This one I'm fine. They didn't try. They didn't need to. Probably better than
probably for the best.
This will make the notes portion of this fairly interesting because I'm gonna slide in the completely opposite direction.
Oh, you want to go full? Great.
No, there's a place for it, and there is a good movie there. But I agree. I don't know if this particular team of filmmakers were the right people to do it.
Yeah, that's sort of more what I'm saying. I'm like, it's good that they didn't try. It probably would have blown up in everyone's face. I'm not saying I didn't want it or it couldn't have been there. I'm just glad these guys worked within what they knew. They didn't overstretch their abilities.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to watch this movie and think of Ready Player One. There's a lot of similar shots, I would say. There isn't necessarily the cacophony of IP, but I definitely feel like it's speaking the same language and trying to hit the same tone, I would say. And by hitting the same tone, I mean trying to be a movie for everyone and somehow still missing the mark.
Yeah.
Anita had a similar thing to say after we watched the movie. She also likened it to Ready Player One, a similar watching experience.
Yeah. Although I think I enjoyed this one more than Ready Player One.
It's interesting. That's
yeah. I don't know. It's been a hot minute since I watched Ready Player One, but
that's
yeah.
Speaking of who made this, the team that, we were discussing the capability of their hands, was directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo. The Russo brothers, from Avengers Infinity War, Arrested Development, and Avengers Endgame. Written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and based on a graphic novel called The Electric State by Simon Stålenhag.
Stålenhag is an incredibly gifted illustrator. There's a whole role-playing game based on his art called Tales from the Loop, which if you're a gamer, you should absolutely check out. It's fantastic. His art is evocative and gorgeous and interesting, and the actual graphic novel, The Electric State, is really good, and it's melancholic and it's depressing, and it actually stuck with me.
I was gonna say my favorite. Like, I was sort of cursing your name, Scott, when you had suggested this, and we all sort of went, "Yeah, it's probably a good idea." And it was kind of like, well, I gotta watch a stupid movie for the stupid podcast. But the best thing to come out of it is that I am now a fan of Simon Stålenhag.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have read that book otherwise, and it was wonderful.
It absolutely is.
I'm glad we did this movie. I'm glad we watched The Electric State.
I just looked it up, and his. A lot of his art is, I've seen this before. It's, taking these old machines and throwing them in urban settings. And, it's great
Everything
stuff.
is landscape.
Yeah.
It's, as I said, it's a very evocative art. And if you've not checked it out before, do yourself a favor, because it is gorgeous stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I might order some prints.
Yeah, I was thinking as well. He was an artist first and then the writer second, so you can get prints of this kind of art just to hang in your home. The cast is Millie Bobby Brown as Michelle Green, Chris Pratt as Keats, Kihei Kwan as Clark Amherst, Dr. Clark Amherst, pardon me, respect your fictitious degree, Stanley Tucci as Ethan Skate, Woody Norman as Christopher, Giancarlo Esposito as Marshall Bradbury, and Anthony Mackie as the voice of Herman. Sorry, Anthony and Giancarlo, you're back. It's not even been a month.
Yeah. To be fair, this is a star-studded vocal cast playing the voices of like all the robots. There's a lot of big names in there. Like Woody Harrelson is Mr. Peanut.
Jenny Slate's in there, I think.
Yeah. Hank Azaria. Like they got some top tier talent for this movie. They wasted some top tier talent for this movie. I would go so far as to say, actually.
A lot of waste going on in this movie. The premise of the book is so much more interesting. Multiple premises of the book are so much more interesting than what they did here. And you can really tell that someone saw the art, went, that looks sick as hell, put it on a movie poster, half our production design, like Bible, is already written. Let's just slap any old generic straight to Netflix sci-fi story on top of this aesthetic template.
Yeah.
in a way that like is a drag for all the reasons that's obvious, but also it squanders the potential of the story. And I'm not even talking about the big ideas of the novel, the like, there isn't a robot uprising, the way drones and things are used very nebulous. I mean, simply narratively, the movie goes, young woman and her robot companion, who happens to have her brother's consciousness in it, travel across a dystopian wasteland to get the body. Whereas the book is a young woman and her robot that you don't know anything about, why they're traveling, where they're going, what they're looking for, that the robot is actually got a human sentience in it, and then slowly zooms out and all is revealed in this melancholy mystery.
Yeah.
And just that simple structure of like, when do we find out that the kid's brain is in the robot? That alone was a waste of a beautiful reveal. Forget all the other ways it squandered the potential. Just that alone. Put the reveal that the kid's in the robot at the end.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because while I was watching it, like I felt like the movie was trying to do a slow burn, but just doing it so poorly that it wasn't interesting or fun.
The movie is simultaneously somehow both rushed and bloated. And it's weird that that's the case, because as I said, it felt like it dragged a little toward the end. But also there's so much crammed into it that nothing has time to like bake. And at the same time, there's so much going on that it's like, what's going on now? Like, we just jumped ahead 3 days. Why is the marshal still at the office? Because clearly time has passed. Like, it was just this weird mix of too much and not enough. And like, stuff needed to hit the edit room floor, or the movie needed to be like an hour longer. I don't know.
No, thank you. 2 was plenty.
Yeah, no, I think the real thing is it needed to be tighter. But yeah, if you want to play as well, like, what's the difference? Like, there's no robot rebellion in the original graphic novel. It's very much like a whole vibe journey for Michelle. Keats isn't in the novel.
Mr. Peanut doesn't sign a peace treaty with a tech billionaire.
Yep. The tech billionaire is not in the graphic novel. What is in the graphic novel is humans becoming addicted to the
Neurocasters.
The Neurocasters. And through that, wasting away. Like the America, as she's traveling across it, is falling apart because everyone is just on their Neurocasters to death. Like, they're just lost in this haze. But in doing that as well, there's like a Gestalt consciousness growing in the internet from all of these interlinked minds, and weird stuff is happening because of that. Like, this is where you get like weird mishmash robots that seem to be under the control of like zombie-like dazed humans wandering around with them. It's nuts, and it's cool, and it's freaky. And it's like, can you just imagine what that would have been like in this movie? Because it's not at all in this movie.
Yeah. Even just, right down to the fact that, like, the Neurocasters are addictive, where in this, it's just how they pilot the drones so that we can have CGI fights where there's robots on both sides instead of just the one side.
That's 2 things. First thing, yes, they kind of hint at the Neurocasters being addictive in this movie, but they never go far enough with it. It's never really explored.
You get the impression Jason Alexander's just wearing it a lot because he's a lazy asshole, not because he's chemically addicted to it.
Yeah. Number 2, I actually pointed out during the climactic battle when I was sitting with Anita, I was like, oh, there's no actual humans in danger in this fight scene. Like, I think 2 humans die in the movie. One of them, and both of those noble sacrifices are undercut almost immediately by them surviving in robot form. And none of the major robots are sacrificed in this movie in a way that isn't also immediately undercut by them having survived. So it's just like, oh, none of our major characters are in any danger whatsoever.
Yeah.
The problems with this really are in the absurd amount of plot. And so maybe we need to go to the trailer and plot summary to catch our listeners up, since it sounds like nobody watches but us.
You famously never owned robots, did you?
I never trusted them. They're not us. How would they possibly understand our best interests?
My brother. I thought I lost him. But he's out there somewhere.
I stopped fighting because the war with his boss was wrong.
You want to go get your brother back?
I'll go with you.
It's 1994, and teenager Michelle lives with her abusive foster parent, Ted. Years earlier, Michelle and her family were in a car crash in which her parents and brother reportedly perished. Years before that, a war was fought between robots seeking emancipation and drones humans controlled using headgear known as neurocasters. The humans won. One day, a robot resembling Cosmo, an in-fiction cartoon character, finds its way to Michelle's foster home. It quickly identifies itself as Michelle's younger brother Christopher, who was presumed dead. Somehow, his consciousness has been uploaded into this goofy-looking robot, and now he and Michelle must venture across this dystopia to find Christopher's body. Following a convenient trail of addresses gleaned from mail that just happened to be on hand right when our heroes were out of leads, they make their way deep into an extremely clumsy apartheid allegory known as the Exclusion Zone. They rally a motley crew of companions, including bad boy rig driver Keats, his robot pal Herman, and the peace-loving messiah of the new robo-society, Mr. Peanut. Yes, really. After an exposition dump from the doctor who treated the family after the car wreck, we learn that Christopher's unique brain is being used as the catalyst to power the neurocasters, now used for popular entertainment as well as war machines. His body is being held captive by the sinister tech billionaire Ethan Skate. It will take a giant third-act battle of CG robots to free Christopher and the audience from the grip of Skate and the Russo brothers, respectively.
One of my biggest observations about the main thrust of this movie in the plot to save Christopher is how little the film seems to care about his specialness. He's just special. That's all. That's all you need to know. Yep. And he's hooked up to he took a test. He did a real good test, guys. And then they hooked him up to a computer and he's running an entire global network of zombie drones.
Yeah.
Also not in the original graphic novel.
Yeah, there was, and that's the thing I had to go look up. So I read the novel first, then I watched the movie, and then the movie adds so much nonsense that I had to go make sure I fully understood what was in the book, because the book does that wonderful thing where it like just gives you little hints of the world and your imagination fills in the blanks in a way that's really satisfying. But then when you see Mr. Peanut's apartheid society, you got to kind of go like double check what you know and what like, you think you know.
Was Mr. Peanuts in the subtext? What was going on here?
So, there is a slight allusion in the novel that maybe there is some special child. There is some sort of new, last season of Battlestar Galactica cyborg, non-human, human.
Ooh, good
maybe.
Reference.
But then
but it's also
just, there's a special boy, a very special boy.
Yeah. In the original graphic novel, it's not even clear if that special child is Michelle or Christopher.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that is possible. And it's kind of, again, as you say, it's up to you to kind of fill in the blanks in an interesting way. And this movie does not have time to let you think about filling in any blanks. It's
all plot beats.
Yep.
It's things happening, things that feel like maybe there's subtext or there's your mind can fill in the sort of takeaway you're supposed to have when you see people sanctioned off in an apartheid situation. That's bad, so you sort of fill in what you know about it, but the movie's not going to make a statement on it. And just to go back to what you said, Greg, about how it's uninterested in how he's special. He's just special. The same is true about how the robots became so sentient they think they deserve equality and a life of freedom and choice. Every movie that's about robots, not every movie, but the good ones that are about robotic creatures making a case for their self sort of has, at least tries to have some sort of explanation about how it gets there or how it understands it. This was just like, well, there's robots, right? And eventually robots are going to be mad you're making them sweep. So they're going to get pissed and attack. And it's like, there's no, what, like how they went from sweeping, Roomba to, Ex Machina is never really explained.
Yeah.
Well,
they shouldn't have made that broom sentient. That was a big mistake.
Yeah, the movie kind of just
your job is to pass butter. It's the Rick and Morty meme. Yeah.
The movie crams in a bunch of. This is what I meant by the movie feels both rushed and bloated, because the movie crams in all of this like front-loaded backstory, but it also doesn't explain some very important things like that. Like it's just, oh, Walt Disney invented robots back in the 50s, and now they're super AIs. Mm-hmm. Time passed. Like,
yeah,
much like how.
What about that? Don't you understand?
Yeah, much like how the second and third act, time passes. They travel 1,000 miles, and we're just at the next plot point.
Yeah, but even more than.
Sorry, I don't want to forget about the Walt Disney thing. There's an excellent YouTube channel called Defunct Land, and he talks about theme parks and some of the history of Disney stuff. He's got a really good Jim Henson multi-part series, better than that Jim Henson doc. But his most recent one is about the Lincoln animatronic, like the first animatronic at Disneyland, and really goes deep into how obsessed Walt Disney was in making very realistic animatronics. So I highly recommend Defunct Land. Whatever the most recent video is the talking Abe Lincoln thing.
For the record, all of their videos are excellent, and you should check them all out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the plot beats that are whizzing by. It's like what the movie wants you to, and just like the ideas that it's trafficking. It's like the Trump speech of movies. Like it's just going from topic to topic and approaching everything very poorly. And by the time you've sort of like comprehended like what the movie is trying to get at, it's already moved on to the next thing. And then you've got to like recompute what's going on. So
it assumes you're also looking at your phone while you watch it.
Yeah, I mean, we know that that's basically the goal of most Netflix movies, which really, I was thinking about the flatness of cinema now, and this is what I would consider to be like a prime example, where the plot is threadbare, the visuals are interesting, but unexceptional.
They're only interesting because of Simon Stillhag. Yeah.
Right. And like, it's not, there's no, the Russos aren't auteurs, and that makes them kind of the perfect, Netflix blockbuster, type directors where, they just get the job done. And that's not to say that they aren't, capable directors, but they just can't take material like this and take it to the next level, or interpret a really interesting graphic novel and make do something to it that maybe, who am I thinking of? Like, my mind is just a blank void of director names now. But,
an Alex Garland could do something with this,
sure. Yeah.
At least the premise.
This isn't a film, it's content.
Yeah.
Well,
speaking of YouTube, speaking of YouTube videos, you should go watch Patrick Ace Willem's video on calling things content. It's an exceptional video.
Film or content, what were some of the things that we liked about this? Because it wasn't wholly unwatchable.
No.
I would like to start. There was a line that I actually thought was quite good and really was like, damn, okay. When Giancarlo Esposito's character finally has the turn from bad guy to ally, he goes, "I finally met someone less human than a robot." And I was like, damn. Like, I kind of like that line. That was...
That's all right. It's an all right line. I quite liked most of the special effects and production design. I was really kind of taken aback by how excellent the lighting was and the care and detail that was going into how the robots were interacting with humans in the same scene. Like, for the most part, I really bought it. I think that the effort was really on screen, and the animators deserve a ton of credit because I felt that it looked fantastic in that way.
Yeah, the production design, again, and that's absolutely due to Simon Stålenhag's art being the whole vibe that they were lifting for this. Is great. Like, the movie looks good. I don't think that the direction and the composition of some of the shots are particularly daring, but it's still very nice to look at.
Yeah.
This is in a different time. This is the movie that plays at Best Buy to show off the TV.
Yes. To show off the new plasma TV. Yeah.
But it's silent. It's no dialogue. We don't need
That's right. It's the NVIDIA tech demo of movies.
I liked some of the characters. They didn't really have time to really flesh out or develop in a way that I might have liked, but overall, like, a lot of the robots were kind of fun. I didn't hate Chris Pratt in this movie. Yeah. I thought Keats was okay. I thought Stanley Tucci's always fun, and him playing basically Jeff Bezos was delightful. Like, there were some, as you said, there were some snappy lines. There was some funny moments. There was some decent action, some surprisingly decent action here and there.
Herman was fun. I think Herman was my favorite character.
100%.
Anthony Mackie as the comedic sidekick, as the comic relief, didn't have him pegged as, voicing the talking snowman kind of role, but here we are. Anthony Mackie for all talking snowmen in movies. Yeah.
Herman absolutely is the best character in the movie, hands down.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie for Jack Frost 2, baby.
Yeah. He's got Olaf vibes.
Big Olaf energy. I also like the running joke of him getting progressively bigger, and then in the end, him being a tiny version of himself.
Yep.
We were talking about characters that don't stay dead. There's a great many of them that either should have stayed dead or they shouldn't have undermined it or whatever. But being like, no, Herman's dead, and there's a little version of him in his head. Like, of course there is. Like, that one was earned. That was a well paid off joke. Yes.
Yes.
I will grant them that one. As I said, the movie's, it's empty calories. It's a bag of potato chips as a film, but you still like a bag of potato chips. Like, it's fine. It's not as bad as I think some of the reviews, certainly on Letterboxd, have suggested.
Yeah. And so obviously someone listens to the pod, because during our Captain America Brave New World episode, I said what I want from Giancarlo Esposito is him being menacing in a chair, puppeting, the action and the drama and the stakes. He doesn't need to be the man on the ground with the gun fighting our hero. And this movie heard me and was like, I'll give you both. Because he's sitting in a chair with his Neurocaster on, controlling a drone that's fighting Chris Pratt. And I'm like, oh, great. That's the best of both worlds. We get Esposito with a gun on the ground and sitting at a desk going,
And to be fair, it is just always a delight to see Ke Huy Quan in a movie nowadays. Nita literally squealed when she saw him appear on the film. She was like, yay. So always nice to see him.
I hope that is true. I hope more often than not, he doesn't just get used as Mr. Exposition Dump, because that's a couple times now where I've seen him as the character who shows up to explain, to do the technobabble.
Yeah.
Which is also like low-key kind of racist to have here, but like, in the Loki series, he's there to do technobabble. But he is still fun. And the fact that they gave him extra to do by having him voice a robot he wrote the robot code for. So it's his voice in the robot was kind of cute. So
Yep.
I was happy to see him.
Sorry.
I just hope he ends up in a few more well thought of things, because like Love Hurts looked good, but then did not get well reviewed. I think kind of crashed and burned, and I'm just hoping for better things for him.
Back to Duncan on this. My minecart tease in my notes. I just have all capital letters, minecart tease. There's a scene where they're running away, and for some reason they get into minecarts, and it doesn't really make any sense, but I'm like an old school Donkey Kong Country fan, so I was very excited for a minecart based action scene, and they move the carts like 5 feet, and then it explodes, and there is no minecart adventure action. And I was livid.
They don't collect any bananas or jump into barrels either.
Yeah, I mean, or Last Crusade, like many a cinematic minecart chase, and they tee one up, and then they minecart cuck me, and I didn't.
I mean, fair. You guys were mentioning Chris Pratt and that you didn't think he was that bad. I actually did not like him in this movie. And it's not. I don't have any particular feelings about Chris Pratt one way or the other, at least as far as the actor on screen is concerned. But yeah, for some reason, everything he was doing really fell flat for me. I didn't laugh at any of his quips. And you could probably maybe blame that a little bit on the writing and a little bit of the performance, but it felt like he was only at a 5 in this movie, and he didn't kind of like dial it up till closer to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Valid. They go for the same joke twice in a way that was really irritating. And just to speak to his sort of quips don't land, where he's like, I sure hope you don't get shocked. I said, I sure hope you don't get shocked. Come on, man. We rehearsed this. And then the guy's supposed to like zap him, like, and they do that twice. And I don't even think it's like Chris Pratt and Herman or Keats and Herman do it twice. I think other characters do it. Like the joke is reused across multiple pairs of characters in a way that was really hacky.
I don't remember other characters doing it. I do know that I
might be wrong, but they definitely do it twice.
Yeah, they do it twice because the first one is the setup for the second one.
I suppose
because the second one he shocks Carlo, or sorry, what's his name?
He tries to zap Brady, Carlo Esposito's character.
Yeah,
and hits Chris Pratt instead.
Yeah. So I think that actually works as a setup because it's kind of a decent gag the first time, and then it's a setup for them to get away in the second one. So I don't mind it, but I didn't notice any other character use it. But that's not to say that it didn't happen. Yeah. There was a lot going on in this movie, and I'm sure I walked out of the room at one point, so I might have missed it.
Yeah. Do we want to get into our notes? Because the things I'm going to criticize this for are now less nebulous and more like specifically these were things that annoyed me, like the minecart thing.
Yeah.
So if we want to jump into notes, I think,
sure.
Now's the time.
What's up, nerds? This is Josh from Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and so much more. Every week, we break down the latest blockbuster movies, TV shows, revisit comic events. We even talk to comic creators like Kyle Higgins, Melissa Flores, and Matt Groom. And don't miss out on our Superhero Showdown episodes where we debate your suggestions on who would win in a fight, or maybe they might become friends. So join in on the conversation with me, Josh, and my co-host Alex every Wednesday on your podcatcher of choice. Look for our yellow and red icon, and we'll see you soon, Smackheads.
Welcome back to I Have Some Notes. We are going to fix the electric state. And now, of course, Scott and I both read the book, and I think our obvious notes are do the book. The book was better, do the book.
Yeah.
But we're going to table that for now and try to fix this movie on its own merits. It is a 4-quadrant action, quote unquote, blockbuster for Netflix. People need to shoot at each other with guns, and there needs to be a big action scene in the third act. We're working within those parameters, within Russo brothers parameters. And then once we're done, we can fantasize about how we would have adapted the novel. So. Yeah. Greg, what do you got for us for notes?
Well, we talked in the first half about Netflix wanting to have content that you can just use your phone while you're watching it. Stuff that's like background noise, which is strange for a platform that has things like the Electric State, but also has stuff like Blue Eye Samurai and Arcane, which are like incredible television shows, animated shows that are dripping with style and effort and artistic merit. It's strange that they have this kind of it's known that they have this kind of mandate and then kind of produce this I think it's becoming a more common term to just sort of like this sort of art slop that they're pushing out to us. And when I was watching The Electric State, I think the thought that kept coming up in my mind over and over again is what this would look like in a much more auteur, like in an auteur director's mind, like embracing the really silly elements of this, like Mr. Peanut, the 1950s style robots that are running around everywhere, and juxtaposing that more overtly with the film's much, much darker themes. Like, this movie traffics in things like racism, slavery, it traffics in, like we mentioned before, apartheid, as
addiction.
well as addiction, authoritarian control,
O'Mealis style. One kid is being tortured for the benefit of all.
It's a Lotus Eater machine powered by a forsaken child, literally.
It's just, the pacification of the masses. So there's so many things that we've sort of approached here, and it's decided that instead of having anything to say about that or using those themes to make a much more interesting movie, they just throw a generic sci-fi action plot over top of it, which is really unfortunate. And I don't have any specific plot threads here, other than I could just see in my mind's eye how it could be played much more like something like Fallout than what we got, right? Where the violence is real and visceral, and yet it has this really dark whimsy to it. And I would love to have seen that.
When we finished watching, Anita said that it reminded her of Ready Player One and Fallout. That was specifically the other thing that she got the vibe from.
Yeah.
Dark whimsy is a good way to put it, because there is a sort of an inherent silliness to the aesthetic of it. Like even his art, what is so charming is it's a beautiful landscape with a giant mech corpse hanging over the horizon.
Yep.
There's sort of a grim humor to that, that could really be played up. And this isn't interested in the grim ideas and is the most safe run of the mill humor from, action movie one-liners humor.
Yeah. Cause like the movie is like asking you to sympathize with an animatronic, Mr. Peanut. And I don't think it can get you there by being a run-of-the-mill sci-fi movie. Like it just doesn't allow you to cross into the movie's fiction enough or jar you with like I said, like a dark whimsy that sort of like puts you in a mental space where everything is like heightened and ridiculous and yet you're invested in it because of all the dark undertones, if that makes any sense.
Exactly. No, that absolutely does. Yeah. Or even just trying to ask you to take something that is absurd on its face so seriously, like lean into the absurdity. And it's sort of what I was saying about Goon on our last episode, where he's like, man, you're the best at hockey. You're a great hockey fighter. It's watching you paint his magic. And it's like, you're talking about it's literally what I said on the last episode. You're talking about a hockey fighter like he's some kind of virtuoso. You're asking us to treat Mr. Peanut, a robotic Mr. Peanut, as this like Nelson Mandela figure.
Yeah.
Just like either don't do the Mr. Peanut gag or play up how absurd that is.
No, you lean further into the Mr. Peanut gag, because something that I was missing from this movie.
That's why I said or.
Something that I was missing from this movie, and I would love to have seen more of, is more mascot robots. Not all the generic robots they had and Mr. Peanut. I want to see the Pillsbury Doughboy. I want to see other branded mascot robots also living in this dystopian world, having also rebelled. Like Mr. Peanut being the only like brand ambassador in this movie was weird because he stood out because there was no one else.
Yeah.
And especially like I realize it might have been hard to get some Disney, like a Mickey Mouse in there because Netflix, but despite the fact that Walt Disney apparently made the animatronics in the first place, but like,
yeah,
throw some stuff in there, like more than just Mr. Peanut. I'm still cool with Mr. Peanut being the surprise leader of the rebellion. But have him have other famous mascot characters around him. And I think that leans harder into the joke and the absurdity of it. Like they were fighting a war against Mr. Peanut and the Pillsbury Doughboy and Count Chocula. Like, and we feel bad that those guys lost. Like,
yeah.
You know what? It just occurred to me that it is very absurd that Mr. Peanut is the leader of the robot rebellion, but the movie doesn't seem to study at all why that's absurd. And
yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, it's got to explore the absurdity or lean into it,
because,
or
like,
not do it.
Because the connection you could really have, like, if everyone's addicted to these basically face, I don't know, meta quests. Let's call them that. Let's call them meta quests or whatever. And if you get this vision of these people being pacified by some sort of like vacation, or they're visiting dead relatives or whatever, like if you bring like Mr. Peanuts into that as sort of like he's like a piece of the advertising that interrupts like someone's they're talking to their dead grandma or something like that, and then they get an advertisement for Mr. Peanuts, and then then you see him later as like this representative of like the rebellion against all that's wrong with this world. That would be more fun, and at least kind of explore a little bit like why it's absurd that this exists. Otherwise, it's just like, he's Mr. Peanuts. Isn't that funny?
Well, I think that there's something to be said there thematically about these robots, these brand ambassadors, like all these mascots who were being exploited by corporations, demanded emancipation, won freedom, quote unquote, by losing the war. And now Center is trying to turn people into the new robots.
Yeah. By
pacifying part of their brain while they go on and do drudge work in drones. Like, they're just trying to replace the robotic workforce with people. Like, there's something there that the movie just doesn't quite connect and explore.
That is the problem all the way down, right down to, you jog my memory on this, Greg, when you mentioned talking to dead relatives. There's a whole just loosely alluded to aspect of Stanley Tucci's villain character where, Ethan Skate, where he goes into the Neurocaster to talk to his dead mother, and she's all doting and sweet and pouring him wine and cooking for him. And then later he's like, no, man, we got to keep this kid locked in the brain cage because everyone gets to experience joy. I get to experience my mom being nice to me. She was a 3 bottle of wine a day drunk who kicked the shit out of me. Anyway, I'm going to keep being an evil bastard. Like, it's just, that's all that's said of it, was like, his whole motivation was to like create a world where he can like experience his mom as a good person, and he's willing to let a child suffer to do it. And it's just sort of like rushed past.
He's happy to exploit a forsaken child in his Lotus Eater machine so that he can have a perfect world.
Yeah. And that's a great villain. That's a great villain thing, but he's not interested in exploring it. The movie isn't.
Yeah,
in fact, one of the things that really bugged me about Stanley Tucci's character, when Bradley, the hunter, the muscle, the butcher, thank you, is talking to him about the kid trapped in the brain machine. He goes, Stanley Tucci's character says this twice. He goes, "Who cares? Who cares that I'm doing this?" And I'm like, you're right, movie. Who cares? Like, I cannot believe like they had a character look in the camera as two of the villains are having this like moral standoff, and one of them goes, "Hey, who cares? Who cares?"
Yeah, if that isn't a metaphor for the modern blockbuster, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like it's not interested in exploring why pacifying everybody in that particular way is horrifying, right? Giving them, just having them, delivering them what they, some sort of fake reality or whatever. Like you don't even really see outside of Ethan Skate, you don't really see anyone's vision. You don't see
3 seconds of Jason Alexander being like, "I'm in Cancun with Cindy Crawford, baby."
Yeah.
He says it. You don't even see it. He says it.
No, you don't.
You see his toes on the beach, or like an ad, I think, of some toes on a beach.
Right. Yeah. It's so strange because then it turns out that like that's their entire reason for letting Christopher die is to save humanity from these machines. And yet we never really get a good understanding of like why that's bad, like why those machines are bad for people. We don't get to see too much of the world outside of, what did they call it? What's the Walden area again?
The exclusion
zone, right? Yeah.
Because it's all plot. It's all the next thing happening. Like I said in the trailer summary or the plot summary, on 2 separate occasions. And I'm sorry to keep grilling that this movie does things twice, but they need to know where to go next, and there is just an address handy. So it's in the trunk of Ted's car. Oh, a guy who can get them into the exclusion zone. And then once they're in the exclusion zone, where are we going to find Dr. Amherst? Oh, the mail robot has a letter for you. Go find him here. And I'm like, wow, they keep just getting handed literal addresses.
Well, and then even PC,
not even like a clue, like, oh, it's a Matchbooks from the strip club or whatever. Like,
yeah, and then even Dr. Amherst and his robot PC give them the next address, which is that he's at the center headquarters in Seattle.
3 addresses, literally. Yep. Yeah, it is a trail of breadcrumb of 3 literal addresses. Not even like clues or they piece it together because they're clever or they know some detail we learned early in the movie. Yeah, it's just like, where are we going next? Here, like it's almost video game logic. Like video games do that, where they'll tell you like, go talk to so and he'll do the thing, and then a little blip shows up on your screen and you just walk towards the blip. Oh,
and in this movie they actually fast travel in the 3rd act.
Yeah,
we don't have time to go the long way. We just fast travel to Seattle.
But to Greg's point, I think you're right. That is, of all the interesting ideas that this movie walks right up to and then doesn't explore, that's probably the one that has the most merit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as someone who regularly thinks about his social media consumption and is frustrated when my thumb continually reopens the program that I just closed, I like it, that's when you evoke that feeling or that topic in me, like I want to see it explored, and then when it isn't, it's a little bit disappointing. And then, to a certain extent, that's just me asking the movie to do something that it wasn't interested in, which isn't necessarily the sharpest of criticism. But that's how it affected me when I was watching it.
Yeah. And yeah, same with the idea of like robots sort of right for sentience. And it made me think of that movie, The Creator, where it like at least tried, to have something to say on that. It was pretty paper thin and broad and, but it like comparing The Creator to this, it's like, at least they tried to explain what the validity of robot sentience, whereas this is completely uninterested in it. They're just, we take for granted why they revolt, and we take for granted that they are actual creatures with souls worthy of being treated with respect. Full disclosure, any movie like Battlestar Galactica or Ex Machina, The Creator, that deals in that idea of like, when does a machine stop being a machine and start being human, or at least like its own thing? Like, I think, therefore I am. Like, where is the digital line on I think, therefore I am? And I'll be honest, if we ever do get to a point where the robots have uprised and are trying to claim that they deserve rights and things, I'm definitely be the one calling them toasters and blasting them mercilessly. I do not believe that if we make it and it thinks it's a machine. It's a goddamn machine. And those kind of movies, they like Ex Machina is amazing because that makes a salient case for that kind of existentialism. Mm-hmm. But whereas, something like The Creator, I'm like, no, they're just robots, man. Like yeah. So I'm not always the audience for those kind of stories, because I'm definitely like, no, it's a machine. Fucking, it's not a person. It's
like you and ghost stories. I know there's no ghosts. It's boring.
There's no ghosts in the machine.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a note for the ending. Like the very ending, they suggest that maybe Christopher isn't dead.
Yeah, undermining yet another sacrifice.
Of all the ones to undermine, I was furious. I was like, he's dead. The whole point of the movie is that he's got to die to free the people from the Neurocasters and from Skate and from Center. But he might be okay though.
Yeah.
Here's just a tease at the end, literally last scene.
Be a bummer otherwise, and we can't have that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's we cannot dare to bum people out.
Yep.
So
you want to leave them feeling good, or else they won't tell their friends to also watch the movie while they tweet on X or whatever.
Yeah. So that was a big one for me, was he needs to stay dead.
Well, how would you guys adapt the book? Because I am curious about that.
Yeah, that's because kind of the main thrust of both what Liam and I would actually like to do.
Yeah, like I said, I had notes about how there's addresses handy all the time. Should have been a minecart. Stay dead. Those are really my three big notes in my mind. But yeah, the adaptation of the book, like I said, first of all, just have it reveal that Cosmo is actually Christopher with his consciousness in a body. Oh, hang on, I had one more pragmatic note for the movie, but it does tie into the book. In the book, Cosmo shows up at her house. Christopher shows up at her foster home and is like, "Hey, it's me, your little brother." That information is revealed to us later in the book, but it still happens. Shows up at her front door. In this movie, he shows up at the front door of her foster home, but in a world where robots are hated, you cannot have robots outside of the exclusion zone. It's a kill on sight, true blue crime. Whereas in the book, it doesn't matter that this robot walks right up to her front door because everyone's zonked out on neurocaster addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so that incongruity, it's like, well, how the hell did he get, like, I can understand how did he get from center to her house if people don't want to kill robots.
Also, how did he find her?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I can suspend my disbelief of how did he find her in the foster care system. But I cannot suspend my disbelief of how did he find her in the foster care system? Well, everyone wants to shoot a robot the second they see them.
Yep.
Yeah. That was my last pragmatic note. So,
not even a note, an observation, because you don't even have a fix for that.
You just don't do that. Just give us a better,
Give us a better intro.
Give us an organic, throw a fourth address in there. Why not?
You, to steer us back towards adapting the book, you had suggested a slow reveal that Christopher's inside of Cosmo, Skip, as he's called in the movie, or in the book. That should be the case with everything. Like, the movie should start just like the book, in media res. There's this girl and this robot traveling across America, and it should be unclear at first why. And the plot, the backstory, what's going on is slowly unpeeled as we go. As we get to different locations, we learn a little bit more about what's going on through a combination of exposition and filling in the blanks. Like, like context clues and stuff. We start, nobody tells us everyone in America is addicted to their Oculus Rift. We see that. We see that people have literally, like, corpses on the ground with their things still on, like, because people have literally just withered away and died in the virtual world. Like, people wandering around like zombies wearing their neurocasters, like weird robots that have been cobbled together and stuff like that. Like, you get the slow payoff of what's going on and how very close to the apocalypse this society is. Like, it's right on the edge. And I think you stick with the original downer ending too.
Yep.
Where they get to the coast and they go off into the sea and they probably die. Like,
yeah. And you stick with the original downer vibe too. I don't think there's a version where you adapt this book and it is a comedy in any way.
No.
Other than maybe some kind of like grim, like gallows humor of seeing these fucked up corpses. The vibe I got, like, this really should play like if The Road happened in the Ready Player One universe.
Kinda, yeah. You're not
I was thinking of The Road.
It's The Road. The book is Cormac McCarthy's The Road, or Viggo Mortensen film The Road, where it's just a nameless person and a innocent companion they're protecting trying to survive this apocalypse, and you slowly learn more either as it zooms out and you get context clues, or, and they use this in The Road, flashbacks. And the book is a lot of flashbacks too, like her remembering things out loud in first person narration. And you can bounce between the now of them scavenging and walking, and then you go back and you learn a little bit something about the world or the character. And then you go back to the now and the scavenging, and then you learn a little more about, It's The Road with Ready Player One aesthetics is how you do this. And you take it dead serious. There's not a laugh to be had.
There's no Mr. Peanut. There's no Robot Rebellion. And you're absolutely right. You play it dead serious. That would have been an entirely different movie, but it would have been so cool.
And it wouldn't have, let's talk about something we haven't actually addressed yet. It wouldn't have cost $320 million. One of the most expensive movies ever made. And I don't doubt that mostly just went to VFX artists, because like that shit's not cheap.
Well, I mean, it had a pretty stellar cast too, so I'm sure they got a big chunk of it.
But yeah, just wild that that's how much got spent on this movie that the people who have watched it mostly hate and most people will ignore. It's not like that's the same budget as Infinity War. And that was a cultural moment we will all never forget.
Yeah.
And this
I wonder if it's possible that like those budgets look quite a bit different just because there's a good chunk of a budget for the movies like Endgame and stuff like that we don't actually see because the actors get a bunch of points on the back end. And that's all money that's paid to them that we don't see. Whereas I'm sure when someone like, Chris Pratt is negotiating for a Netflix film, he's going, okay, so there's no box office. So you guys have to give me the points that I would have made, like whatever value that is, if it was, a blockbuster, so that I'm getting paid the same. So it's I would imagine that inflates the budget a little bit and makes it look a little more skewed, but it's still for a streaming platform. I just don't think that streaming platforms can have blockbusters. I just don't think that that's a thing that exists. I haven't
one a year that's special.
Yeah, I just don't nothing. I can't really think of one that has become as culturally relevant as anything that's been in theater. There's certainly Netflix films and Prime films that have transcended their platforms a little bit, but by and large, they just don't I was thinking while I was watching this that if it were on the big screen, it might actually be better perceived because you would see all of the excellent animated work and the scale of these interesting robots on a much bigger screen. It would have had a sense of grandeur to it. But because it's on such a small screen, comparatively, then you don't really get that same sense. And of course, you're not taking it in communally, which always makes a big difference when you're watching a movie. We watched this all alone. Well, except for Scott, I guess you watched it with your wife, which was lucky. I had to watch this by myself downstairs in a cold basement, and I did not like it. It's just a completely different experience, and I think we often forget about that when it comes to movies. Like what a communal experience it really is. Like I remember seeing Attack of the Clones on opening night way back in the day, and while that movie is not good, you couldn't not feed off of the energy that the crowd had. Like there were hardcore Star Wars fans there who were going bonkers for everything. Like when Yoda walked in to fight Count Dooku, the theater exploded. Like it was like, maybe the movie wasn't that good, but like that experience was legitimately awesome. And like you're never ever going to get that on a streaming platform. It's just not possible. So why they're spending all this money to try to make movies that mimic that experience is kind of baffling.
Yeah, and it ends up in price hikes for everyone else.
Exactly. Yeah, like you just they pay $320 million for that, and then they spend time justifying to their users why they have to add ads to their stupid platform, and then raise the cost of everything else. So yeah.
Circling back a little bit to adapting the book, Scott, do you think even if keep pretty much all the details that were added in the Russo brothers version, the exclusion zone, the robot war, Chris Pratt and Anthony Mackie's characters, Stanley Tucci's character, keep all of that in there as written, but still save the reveal that Christopher is Cosmo or Skip? Do you think it still would have worked if they did that? Still tried to take that zoom out approach, add context, add details, because the movie is literally front loaded with a flashback to her and her little brother showing that they love each other, and then a montage of news clips that explains the lore of the world.
I think, and I think it would make it a little more poignant if we meet Michelle not in the foster system, but already on the lam with Skip/Cosmo. And for all intents and purposes, at first, I think Keats thinks that she's just trying to get this wayward robot back to the exclusion zone because she's got a big heart. But then when she gets there, it's clear she's got an ulterior motive. She's looking for someone who is then pointing her to Seattle, but Keats still doesn't understand why. And then as they're making their way there with the help of more robot friends, it is slowly revealed that her brother's brain is in this robot and is controlling the thing. So Keats becomes our point of view character.
POV, that was the gasp I just did. Keats is the POV character.
Because part of the mystery is Michelle and this robot that she's escorting and what's going on.
Boom.
Yeah, and
that right there,
notes. That right there makes the movie more poignant because now, like, we get to learn through Keats why this robot means so much to her, what's the importance of this robot, what's really going on with Center. Because I think Michelle kind of knows a lot of this right off the bat, but she's not willing to trust Keats with the information. And
we don't need that information yet for dramatic irony purposes.
Yeah.
Oh. It took us an hour of going, do it better, to finally get to actionable fixes, but we made it. Yeah.
So there you go. Just that one major change, I think, would have improved the movie. Because then there's a real mystery, and we get the big aha moment in the third act where it's like, oh my God, there's a forsaken child powering this machine, and she's trying to save him. Like,
or oh my God, there was a robot war, and the robots are actually like
that's the Act 2 reveal.
Apartheid.
That's the Act 2 reveal. When we get to the exclusion zone, that's the Act 2 reveal, is that there was a robot war. We still, because we can jettison the like 15 minutes at the top of this movie where we get all this unnecessary backstory. We can get rid of Ted and her in the foster system and her trouble at school. We start with Keats. He meets this wayward girl and her robot companion. Against his better judgment, he agrees to help her out because he can get the robot back to the exclusion zone. And then he finds himself sucked into this adventure.
Yeah, what's good about the book isn't the plot points, it's the vibe, and the vibe is so good, it can hold all your Russo brothers nonsense, all your blockbuster nonsense, so long as you honor the vibe.
Yep.
Right.
Though I was a little disappointed that there's a queer love story in the book that isn't in this, which is a drag. True. But
well, a sad queer love story. The whole book is sad, though, so it's not surprising it's a sad queer love story.
Sorry to keep talking about the book. The other thing I love about the book is you're never clear who the quote unquote villain is. So you've got that Walter character who's pursuing them, and you're not sure if he's pursuing them because he wants to protect them or get them. This hive mind, you can't tell if it's benevolent or malevolent.
It's got blue and orange morality. Who knows? It's got its own agenda.
Even the brief mention of her girlfriend's dad, who's a pastor, the 3 sentences we meet that pastor character, he goes, yeah, man, those neurocasters are bad. Everyone's addicted, and it sure is a shame. Society's going to shit because they're hooked on him. Oh, hey, good guy. And then it's made clear he kicks the shit out of his daughter. Or beats his daughter. So you're like, we only meet this priest character for 3 sentences, and we already get his complex morality of like understanding the neurocasters are bad and will hit his daughter.
Yep. Yeah. It's such a good book. Go and read it, you guys. Like, be prepared for a downer, but go and read it.
One last little, I'm curious, did you guys notice the Arrested Development reference?
No.
Was there money in the banana stand?
You miss it? A good guess. If there's like a banana robot or something that catches fire. No, there's a scene in the big action battle at the end. One of the robots is a billboard robot that swings its billboard into a bunch of drones, and the billboard is for Barry Zuckerkorn with the quote, "He's very good."
Okay, yep.
So, and I had to stop and rewind it a couple times to make sure I saw it correctly. And this is gonna get a little conspiratorial. I wonder if Netflix encourages those kind of Easter eggs, because I know they can tell, like, when do you stop a movie, when do you back, like, if people stop partway through a movie, what part are they stopping at, you know? And I wonder if it's just to like test that the stopping counter is there to see if anyone stops to rewind to see if that was a Barry Zuckerkorn billboard, but yeah. Speaking of very good, our listeners have some very good insights. Thank you to everyone who contributes. The best way to comment is over on our Discord, though we love hearing from you on our social medias as well. Intra86 says, I'm not going to hop on the Chris Pratt hate train. It's not his fault for sharing the first name with actors that have a little more it factor. I love him in Guardians of the Galaxy movies and Parks and Rec. He's perfectly fine as Mario. He's okay-ish, perfectly functional at times in Jurassic World movies, but almost all those characters were odd misfires. Look, my point is, wow, I'm struggling to get through him in Electric State.
He's fine, you guys. He's fine.
I like that when we meet him, the sort of bad boy song of him getting out of his truck is Mother by Danzig. And I forgot how much that song slaps. And I was like, yeah, you're making Chris Pratt in 90s leather look cool.
And actually, I love the fact that he's introduced as a badass and that's quickly undercut. He's actually an idiot. And kind of a lovable idiot. And like, it works because Chris Pratt action hero doesn't work quite as well as Chris Pratt goofball. And they kind of lean more goofball in this movie. Like, he's capable, but he's a goofball. And that kind of works. Also, there were some weird song choices in this movie, now that you mention it. Nita pointed it out too.
Robot.
Yeah. It's like there are some great needle drops in this movie, but there are also a few which Nita and I kind of gave each other side eye about.
I'm curious if it's the one that really made me perk up. Mother was sweet, but there was a new arrangement to be played on the piano by the Taco Robot of Wonderwall at the end. Is that the one that cut? Yeah.
Yeah,
that was distracting.
That one was there were a couple other which was like, really? That's the song choice movie? Okay. We'll see where you're going with this. But yeah. It is what it is. Yeah, obviously not many people saw this movie before we recorded this episode, so there wasn't a lot of audience feedback on this one. But
do you want to read what Robin Taylor and Wednesday 31 said, though? It was kind of funny back and forth, a little tete-a-tete.
Yeah, Robin Taylor had said, I cannot join you on this adventure as I cannot make myself watch this movie. I am very old and my life is precious. And Wednesday 31 added in, yeah, I'm with Robin. I just can't do it. And I'm not giving Netflix the satisfaction of my attention when there's so many better things in this world. But I look forward to your transmutation of junk into gold. Well, guys, this movie is watchable. It is watchable.
And if that is, yeah,
there's better things to watch. Don't watch.
There's definitely better.
Yeah,
things
I think that's probably the fairest one. Like, yeah, there's much better things on Netflix to watch. Let alone,
I was gonna say you'll get. They keep jacking up the price. You can get your money's worth out of it. This ain't it.
Yeah. I would also encourage people, or at least Canadians, since they are an American company, go ahead and cancel that shit. You don't need to watch. There's other things. Go subscribe to CBC Gem or Crave or something else.
And subscribe to our Patreon. You can visit us at patreon.com/I have some notes, and you can become an armchair screenwriter for just $3 a month. You can get access to bonus episodes, old and new, as well as a shout out on the podcast. We really appreciate your support.
Yeah, you can also follow us over at ihavesomenotes.bluesky.social. I Have Some Notes Pod on Instagram. We're over on the Facebook at I Have Some Notes. But that's all the kid stuff. You want to come and hang with the big boys, you check out our Discord server. The link can be found in the profile of any of our social media accounts or at ihavesomenotes.com. That's where all the big conversations are going all the time. We're talking about TV shows, we're talking about movies, we're talking about stuff coming down the pipe. We're always active on there, and it's always a great time, so check us out there. You can also, of course, give us a little rating and review on our podcatcher of choice, because that also helps us out.
Our next episode is going to be John Wick 4. I don't think that we've had Keanu Reeves on the show before, have we? I mean, definitely not, as
a guest.
As a guest. But
I mean, we're happy to have him on as a guest.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't in Cloud Atlas, right?
Nope.
No, and he wasn't, I know he does. I know he does things other than Wachowski joints, but he wasn't in Speed Racer, and he wasn't in Cloud Atlas, so
Yeah. So first go around for Keanu. So yeah, catch up with that in 2 weeks.
Bogus. Until then, I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver. Elbows fucking up, Canada.